It's an honor to be presenting at the finals of the Global Stock Pitch Competition. My name is Sri Raghav Ashok from Basis Peoria in Arizona, and today I'm going to be giving a stock pitch about NVIDIA. For a quick company overview, NVIDIA was founded in 1993 by its current CEO, Jensen Huang, and he had the vision to put a GPU in every single computer in the world. And he started that journey in 1999 by creating the world's first GPU, GYIS 256. And in 2022, he did the unthinkable, reaching a market cap of $1 trillion. Now that we've understood what NVIDIA is, we can look to the four primary business areas which it operates in. NVIDIA operates in four primary business sectors. The first is revolutionizing gaming through its GeForce GPUs. The second is enhancing data centers through its CUDA platform. The third is pioneering autonomous vehicles through its Drive platform. And the fourth is enhancing design and virtualization through its Omniverse technology. But now, my recommendation is to buy NVIDIA from its current price of $134 to a target price of $374 within the next 5 to 10 years, which I'll explain how I got to later. Now, there are four primary pillars as to why I believe you should buy NVIDIA. The first is a growth opportunity. With artificial intelligence coming into every single sector of the economy, there needs to be GPUs to power them. And that means that NVIDIA's GPUs demand will only surge in the coming future. The second is that it has an international footprint. Since NVIDIA operates in over 50 different countries, it makes it very adaptable and flexible and not over-reliant on one singular market. The third is its market dominance. As we'll see in later slides, in every single market that NVIDIA operates in, it's consistently been dominant with having over 95% in AI-accelerated workloads. The final thing is that what sets it apart from its competitors is that it takes the risk and reinvests a quarter of its revenue back into research and development to make sure its technology is always one step ahead of its competitors. Now, not only do these four pillars provide analysis to why you should buy NVIDIA, but the financials do as well. You can see that NVIDIA's revenue has constantly been rising to its peak at right now at $39 billion, and has been growing quarter on quarter by 12%. And this trend is not isolated to 2025. Looking at the past 5 years, in 2020, NVIDIA had less than $5 billion in revenue. In 2025, they have nearly $40 billion. That's nearly a $35 billion increase, showing how NVIDIA has consistently been growing. However, this is not the tip of the iceberg. There are four primary catalysts that will propel NVIDIA for its stock to increase. And that's diversification. NVIDIA is no longer simply becoming a GPU company, but diversifying into other streams of artificial intelligence. One primary way they're doing this is in recent years, they're investing in AI infrastructure. Instead of simply providing the GPUs for companies like Google Cloud and AWS to provide the cloud computing, now they're investing in smaller companies called neoclouds such as Lambda and Nebius in order to build their own artificial intelligence infrastructure. The second, as I said previously, is due to the rise in data centers and artificial intelligence. The GPU market is only set to rise because now you need GPUs to power more and more artificial intelligence across all sectors. The third is strategic partnerships. What NVIDIA does is that it creates partnerships with large companies like Google Cloud and AWS, and what they do is they lock these companies into only using NVIDIA's technology, ensuring that competitors do not steal their clientele. The fourth and final thing is that they're doing vertical expansion. What this means is that they're no longer limiting themselves to that GPU market, but now looking at software and other hardware as well. Now, let's look at the industries that NVIDIA is currently operating in. NVIDIA operates in the semiconductor industry, GPU market, autonomous vehicles, and cloud computing. And there are two primary similarities among these four industries. The first is that they're set to grow upon billions upon trillions of dollars in the coming years. And the second is that NVIDIA is dominant compared to its peers in every single one of them. As you can see in this graph, you can see that NVIDIA consistently has over 80% of the total market share. And that's only been growing. As you can see in quarter 3 of 2023, it had 82% of the total market share. And in quarter 3 of 2024, just 1 year later, over 90%, showing an 8% increase in the total market share. Now, what are the key differentiators? NVIDIA is what we like to call a wide moat, and it's for four reasons. The first is that brand name. NVIDIA is a household name, so customers naturally gravitate towards NVIDIA because of the quality associated with it. The second is that networking effect. As I said previously, when NVIDIA has these partnerships with these large companies like Google Cloud, it creates a sticky ecosystem where these companies are locked into using NVIDIA's technology. And the third is high barriers to entry. In all the markets that NVIDIA operates in, such as GPUs, there's very high upfront investment costs. And in case the venture fails, there's exorbitant switching costs, making it unappealing for new entrants and competitors. The fourth and final thing is to provide exclusivity to that revolutionary technology that NVIDIA provides. They do so through issuing over 15,000 patents to provide exclusivity to their tech. Now, looking at the Porter 5 Forster graph, due to the high barriers to entry and the exorbitant switching costs, it makes it so there's a very no threat of new entrants and a very low intensity of competitive rivalry. And as a result, since there's so few companies, there's very few threat of substitutes because there's only very few products in the market itself. And as a result, there's very low bargaining power that consumers have, because to get the quality associated with NVIDIA, you must pay the price. The only thing is that there's an intermediate amount of bargaining power that suppliers have. However, NVIDIA is actively combating this by looking to multiple suppliers for its chips instead of just looking at TSMC and looking to other companies like Samsung, or producing domestically, such as the CHIPS Act. Now, we can go to our valuation. I used to go with a comparable company analysis and a DCF model to do a market-based and future cash flow, looking at future cash flows to find the fair value estimate of $374 per share. The way I did this is that using the comparable company analysis to a market-based approach, I compare NVIDIA to its peers like AMD and Intel by using the EV/EBITDA ratio to find the implied target price of $215 per share. And then using the discounted cash flow model, first I find the free cash flows from years 1 through 5 and then years 1 through 10. And then from that we find the terminal value by using a terminal multiple method. Using the terminal multiple method, by doing so we find the 5 and 10-year DCF price target after discounting, of course, using a WACC of 18.32% of $363 and $395 per share respectively. And by using a weighted average, we find a final fair value estimate of $374 per share in the time frame of 5 to 10 years. Now, there are 3 primary investment risks associated with investing in NVIDIA. The first is a chip shortage, but that's not actively becoming a problem because of a couple of reasons I stated earlier. The first is that more companies are starting to produce chips now, such as Samsung. The second is that there's more domestic production, such as through the CHIPS Act, and there's TSMC factories right here within the US, making it so there's more supply of chips and reducing the chip shortage. The second thing is geopolitical uncertainty. With tariffs causing tensions between the US and China to rise, NVIDIA wants to distance itself from these tensions. And the way they're doing so is instead of having most of their research and development bases in Shanghai, they're moving to other places like the Middle East or even domestically within the United States. The third is that they have a concentrated customer base with these hyperscalers like AWS and Google Cloud. But NVIDIA is also combating this through 2 primary mechanisms. The first is that since they're diversifying into multiple streams of revenue, such as autonomous vehicles and cloud computing themselves, it makes it so they don't have such a concentrated customer base. The second is that they're also looking to regional and national governments as well, making so that they're not only having these large-scale hyperscalers as their customers. Now, under the governance and management, NVIDIA is run by its current CEO and co-founder Jensen Huang, and under its shareholders, over 70% of total shares are held by institutional investors. Now, let's look to the environmental, social, and governance factors, all which are crucial to that brand reputation that creates a wide moat for NVIDIA. Under environment, NVIDIA actually has eco-friendly manufacturing methods, and as a result, their carbon emissions decreased by 30%. The second is under social. According to Glassdoor, NVIDIA is one of the top 5 companies for worker satisfaction in the world, showing they have positive worker satisfaction. Under governance, they have an independent board of members who are frequently changed, making it so that the board is both accountable and independent and taking decisions that will benefit the company. Now, with the rise of artificial intelligence, it's very crucial to determine what impact it will have on NVIDIA in the future. And it's mostly positive. Because all of artificial intelligence relies on high-powered GPUs, now since artificial intelligence is seeping into every sector of the economy, now NVIDIA's GPU market is only set to rise, and their demand for their products is set to rise, making NVIDIA's GPU market all the more lucrative as years move on. The second thing is that due to the CUDA platform, now it creates this lock-in, as I stated previously, because now these companies are only allowed to use NVIDIA's technology, making it so they have more and more of the market share as you're seeing in recent years, as that graph we showed at the start. The only risk is that there's rising competition. With the rise in artificial intelligence, large companies like Google and Amazon are trying to not make themselves reliant on NVIDIA and separate themselves. But the problem is that because of all the patents that NVIDIA issues and how they're always investing over a quarter of their revenue back into research and development, their chips are always one step ahead of their competitors, making it very hard for them to catch up and making it so they're always reliant on NVIDIA. Therefore, my suggestion is to buy. Thank you for your time and listening.
Let's take a couple of questions.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the geopolitics? It was your last point. You didn't mention that, you didn't have time, but obviously the latest quarter results had a big impact from that already. So how do you think they're going to do? How are you looking at that?
Yeah, so just last week actually, NVIDIA actually shifted its base of operations for all its research and development factories from Shanghai to the Middle East. And why that's crucial is because they saw their earnings being hit in the Q1 of 2026. And as a result, they've taken proactive action to shift themselves into the Middle East so that they don't continually get hurt by these tariffs and tensions between China and the United States.
Maybe one more.
I wanted to talk to you about the rising competition with, Google and Amazon making their own TPUs. Now, you don't always need the best product for everything that you're doing. So how do you think about when we get past, we'll always be training these models to be better, but when you're just using them, you don't necessarily need NVIDIA. So how do you think about that?
Yeah, so the thing is that as I stated previously, most of the GPUs that Google buys from NVIDIA is for their cloud computing. And as a result, what one primary aspect of NVIDIA's CUDA platform is that it locks these companies into only using NVIDIA's technology. So even if Google produces their own chips, they're still obligated under these contracts to use NVIDIA's technology. So even if Google produces their own custom artificial intelligence chips, NVIDIA still has a market. But even then, even if Google and these other companies do produce these artificial intelligence chips, NVIDIA is going into the cloud computing market or the autonomous vehicles market, all of which are untapped by these larger companies, making so they always have diversified sources of revenue. Thank you.